Hello, everyone. My name is Amy V. Cooper. I am a photography business consultant and personal coach. Thank you for watching another video with us. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're kind of doing this on the fly. I am with one of my most favorite people on the planet Earth, Tania Quintanilla. She is one of the most talented beauty photographers in New York City right now. And Tania, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm excited to talk to you. We're gonna talk about, well, we're gonna get real. I have a feeling you and we always get real, and there might also be some adult language in this video. Maybe you and I tend to go there, but will you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background, how you became the most amazing photographer?
I am Tania and at TQ Photo, and I I just started shooting my friends when I was in high school, and then went to Brooks School of Photography, graduated there in Santa Barbara, and then after that I had a mentor who told me that I should not move to New York, that I should move to Florida because New York was inundated with photographers and it was hard to get your start. And I think he was right. So I ended up in Florida, and then after a couple of years, went back to Texas, started my studio there, and stayed there for about 10 years. And then decided that honestly, me and my husband, we're like, we're not having kids. We need to like go for our passion projects and do our thing. And so I'd always dreamed of living in New York, of course, as every young photographer does. And so we moved here for a try. And so we've been here for 3 years now coming up. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
yeah, go ahead.
And so we're recording this at the very last week of May in 2020, and you are in the epicenter of coronavirus. And I've been talking to a lot of photographers who are not in New York City who, most photographers are not really working, but some are still, coming up with personal projects. They're still marketing. Life still seems to be going on. But I feel like it's so different for you in New York City.
Yeah.
Will you tell us what it's like to be there just as a person, but also as a photographer?
Well, it's weird when it first started happening, like in Fashion Week. We were having our Fashion Week when no, I think we had already had it. I don't remember, but the way it happened, we were hearing about it, like it was like, oh, Fashion Week, whatever. And I remember just being like, I don't know. It just didn't seem so urgent. I don't watch the news ever because I have anxiety, so it's like not recommended. So I get my news from all my very intelligent friends and from memes on Instagram. And so my mom was like, don't touch your face, don't get a haircut, and I remember the last time I went out to like be in the city like normal was like, I think it was like March 11th, and it was to get my hair colored. And so this is all the growth I have from like not being out in the city for so long. So this is how long I've been in isolation in my apartment.
I love it.
And then after that, I had a shoot actually. I think the next day I had a friend, an wardrobe stylist from Texas, fly in. We had this amazing fun shoot in Williamsburg. And it was like, he was flying home. It was like all very weird, and so he got home. We were already like sprayed the entire part. Like we were already at that point, like March 13th or something, being very, and just like decided we were going to be in quarantine. And like, I think it was like March around 13th that it was announced, like New York's in quarantine, like stay at home. Mm-hmm. It was so shocking at first. I cried on the streets many times. Like I couldn't like stay in, like we were allowed to go for a walk with our dogs if we had dogs. And so I would like wait till like no one was out and it was raining, and I would just go into, like I'd go look at the city from, it's like about 2 blocks away. I live in Williamsburg. So I would go and like, I would go in the rain so that there was nobody around. I'd wear masks and gloves and like full, like, and then I would come home. I wouldn't touch anything. I'd spray everything. I'd come home, take a full shower every single time I went outside. it felt like, I mean, I saw a meme once where it was like going to the grocery store was like going to the moon, you know, you just like, and I felt like it, you were breathing in this stuff, you know, and it was like, like the first experiences of breathing in these old masks that I had from ceramics that I had, thank God I had, you know, it was like insane. And like just huffing up my steps, you know, because we didn't have any other way to get anywhere but walking. So, you know, and then like seeing anyone on the street, and it was just like, it felt like like the air was poisonous. I remember telling my husband, like, I don't know if we should open the windows, like, it just felt like we didn't know how, like it was landing on our hair or the dog's hair. So it was just like such a crazy, like the whole first month, like March, all of March to like middle. And then it was like, we didn't leave the house. I got sick for like 3 days, and my husband got sick for like 3 days, and we're like, for sure we got it. Like it was so, you know, crazy. And you know, and then like we'd go to the grocery store when like nobody was there. It was just very isolated, which I'm sure is an experience that most people had, I'm assuming. And then like a month and a half later, about 4, 5, 6 weeks later, it was like we found the good grocery store where almost no one was at. We got into our routine, and but in none of that have I been able to work at all. Like, so now it's like, what, I've lost track. It's like 2.5 months later. What is that, 10 weeks? I haven't done, and I am a ceramicist, I am a painter, you know, I'm like, you know, I have not done one bit of work. I have like 6 shoots. Okay, the only work that I've done is in the first couple of weeks, I just really tried to get some of the work that I had just shot out to magazines. I felt like this wasn't going to last forever, and I was like, maybe they need content for coming up, and so that's about as much as I did. I took some of the work that I had and started publishing it, and then every once in a while I'd get the energy to like submit to these magazines that were taking submissions, and I'm still kind of doing that. Like I'll get the energy every once in a while. I feel like every once in a while I get this, you know, this like shame of like, you know, you're not doing enough, you know.
But I mean, because you're in New York City and it's been so intense there, I'm assuming that's kind of like, that in and of itself is enough to deal with in a day. And I'm assuming that you just didn't have the, you know.
Yeah, that's what happened. Like the first month, I feel like now looking back at it, I feel like the first month was like, this is ending soon, you know, this is a blip, like you can't lose momentum, you know, like everyone's, I mean, the energy in New York, you know, is always like, you got to keep moving, or you know, you're gonna get, you know, kind of lost in the mix. And so it was like, how can I get on top of this? How can I, since you know, I'm feeling okay, you know, thinking I'm feeling okay, you know, I can like somehow take advantage of this and work and do stuff, you know. And now looking back, now that my body has naturally slowed because it's been forced to, and everything stopped, it's very clear to me that, first of all, everyone has had to take a break. Like one of the editor of Cosmo that I was going back and forth with in the first week, like I think it was like 10 days in, she lives here in Williamsburg too. 10 days in, like I was shocked on her Instagram account. She got like into a cab, onto a train, from the train. And going into a cab to me was like going, you know, like, I don't know. So it was really scary. And so she got onto a train to go to a boat to get onto Cape Cod, where somebody had an Airbnb outside of New York. And that's what it was, like the mass exodus. Everyone was leaving the city to go to whatever houses they had out in the city. And now, like, I see her and she's like canoeing and, you know, all this stuff. And I'm thinking, there's like, our communication slowed. She's like, we're talking on Instagram, but I'm feeling like even the magazines are just doing the least, you know, like I mean, I'm looking at her, she's doing yoga every day. Like, I know she needs the self-care as much as I do, you know? It's like, so we're all sort of like, and then even our emails, I'm sure everyone has this familiar too. All our emails are like really heartfelt. And like, whereas before was like, you know, trying to be, you know, just felt now it's just like, like at one point I told her about my allergies and how I was feeling very nervous, like stuff that you just like wouldn't tell a potential client,
Yeah.
But yeah, so
You've been able to have a little bit of communication, like they're still open for business. It's just really slowed down. Is that the vibe you're getting?
I mean, I got that vibe from so in the beginning when I was pushing my work, it felt like she was also like trying to keep up, and we were like, she was the main person I was communicating with. She was like, yes, we have a Zoom meeting tonight and whatever. And it was just kind of it just started to feel like I didn't want, it felt kind of gross to me, honestly. Like I just felt like I did email her, like the last email I sent her, because she was like, yeah, they love all the images. We're gonna probably put them on web, because I don't think we're doing a print issue. And like, it was all very, like, I don't know what we're doing yet. And then at the end, I sent her an email and I was like, you know what, babe, because I felt like she was really working hard to like work for me, and at the end, I just was like, I just want you to know, like, basically, like, thank you. Like, it was just very much like the end of the world speech, like,
Oh
thank you
God.
so much for vouching for me, for being here for me. I want you to know I appreciate you. Whatever happens, who cares? Like, this doesn't matter. Like, well, like, go and be safe and self-care. Like, it was like we had this exchange. And she was like, you too, like, you're amazing and things will be okay. It was like, and then I just kind of like, now on Instagram, I'm just like, you look great, or this is inspiring, or whatever, but I'm not pushing my work anymore. I don't feel right about it. I don't know. For me, like, and I go back and forth. Like, I feel like, I don't think that it's a problem. I don't think that if you do want to and you have the energy to, I feel like people in the industry who are also feeling like they're up to, and like maybe they cope with this stress by overachieving, and that's totally, yeah, and that's totally great, and like just as good as the underachievers here, I think that great, so you're having some kind of real, like, you can send out and they will receive. I think that maybe me and Radine were not like that, and I can't speak for her really. I can only speak from my experience, but that's the energy that I was feeling. And honestly, it just felt like, for me, my husband got sick, like the sirens constantly, helicopters constantly. Even now, I was like, they opened up my street. They opened 7 miles in the city for people to walk. So they closed it off to traffic because people were having to walk in the sidewalks. And it's like, and then like, you'd have to like get into the street, and the cars were coming like 2 times. I almost got run over because I was trying to avoid somebody without a mask, And so they opened up the street, and now and it's right under my building, and now I could hear like sounds of New York, thank God, because it was so eerie, and all you could hear was sirens all day long, So, at least now there's like a little bit of, something, but at the time it just felt like, like it's just like I was like telling my husband, it's like micro traumas, like you were like, I'm baking, like banana bread, and then we're gonna like, sit down, check emails, and then it's like, rah, rah, rah,
Oh my gosh.
and then, coming home and like wiping down your groceries and like kicking doors as you're walking out with your gloves up like a surgeon. Like, it's just like all these little micro traumas,
Yes.
Seeing people on the street without masks. Like, I have nightmares every night.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And yes, you and I were talking about how you were saying when you see these memes on Instagram about it's okay that you haven't completed a massive personal project during COVID, like it's okay. And I was telling you how, I get so much feedback from my clients when I repeat the statement that, because I'm dishing out marketing strategy to my clients all day long, but I make sure to start my emails with, it's still okay if you're just resting, like turn this, put this email away for later. And I get so much feedback saying, thank you so much for saying that. So, everyone just has to listen to their bodies, honestly. Totally. And my body is constantly shutting me down. Like, I might be cranking out project after project. Like, I'm so productive right now, But then I get in bed at night and it's like, well, first my body tries to shut me down like at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and then I can't sleep at night. So,
Yeah.
I think for those of us who are being super productive, eventually our bodies are going to shut us down,
Yeah.
and knock on wood, because I have a
Yeah,
lot
knock on
going
wood
on.
for you. When this all first started and I was watching you be super productive, I was just like, am I missing something? Like I
Well, I'm in
couldn't.
a whole different world from you. Like here, it's just like la la la. Maybe some people are wearing masks. It's like
That's
restaurants
the
are
first thing I
open.
thought too. I was like, it's possible that you're not getting the micro traumas like I am or people in New York are all the time. But I know how sensitive you are and how like in tune you are with the world that seemed lesser of a thing. I think even though yes, I'm sure, I also think that just it's natural for people to function in their own ways. You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying?
Everyone's having a different experience.
It's just
Everyone's getting different news
absolutely.
stories. Yeah, and every city is different. Like my clients in Chicago seem to be doing all right, but everyone in New York, it's like the sirens. It's like you can't get away from it.
Yeah, and honestly, like I have a friend I was telling you in Texas who's a portrait photographer, and like she's worked this whole time.
Mm,
And
yeah.
and we were talking, and I was just like, first of all, I can't work because nobody's working, and my work is very people based. I have like all the crew. I
Hmm.
mean, I could do stuff, and I have recently started doing face time shoots, which are super fun and really easy because you don't have any production to do. Really, you
Yeah.
just like get on your phone. But yeah, no, I can't imagine doing my job well under the circumstances. I actually got a call to do like 7 portraits about 2 weeks ago, and I was like, this is such a relief to hear from a New York company reaching out to me because it
Hmm.
means that maybe there's a shift and things are opening up and things are being. And she was
Hmm.
like, "We'll be super careful, da 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 da." And I was like, "But honestly, it would just have to be like like the amount. I don't know what it would take for me to risk myself to do
Hmm.
that. Like it's just at the time, it was just 2 weeks ago.
Hmm.
I might have done it maybe now. And I even told her, I was like, reach out to me in a month. I'll be up for, I think I'll be up for it then, but like, I'm not prepared yet to like run a
Yeah.
full show.
Good for you.
Um,
And I think we need to tell other photographers out there it's okay to say no. Just because some people are ready, it doesn't mean that you have to be ready. I mean, like I said, everyone's getting different news, different experiences. There's no rules, like there's no real rules on production right now. So
right.
trust your instincts. If you don't feel safe, it's okay to say no. Somebody else will get that job, but don't worry about it. You really have to listen to your body.
Yeah, and I feel like you don't have to go at the pace, like we were talking about this too, like you don't have to go at the pace of the city. Like New York is very much like, I feel it, I feel the pace of it pulling. I'm sure everyone does, but we are like, I could tell that everyone's like, we will work as much as we can. And I was telling you, like, I think if I had a client call me and say, hey, I need you to like do a self shoot and retouch this, I could do it in my state, but emotional state. But just to like create from my muse is like very
Mhm.
difficult for me right now, and that's why the
Mm.
personal project just didn't is not happening for me. And I do feel like the shame monster come up,
Mm.
and but I am mindful of it, and
Good.
I tell the shame monster like, hey, like seriously.
There's a
um
pandemic.
yeah, I
Shut
was like,
up.
pandemic, people sick around me, sirens wailing, everyone's
Yeah.
wearing, like, no, so I do just like, I'm being very compassionate with myself when that comes up. But because yeah, I have what I have in me, and I'm just listening to that. And usually the most creative I can be is like cooking my husband a meal, you know,
Mm.
and I don't know, playing Animal Crossing, to be honest. Like, just
You
like,
have been creating some gorgeous meals. I've been watching your
yeah, I am gonna do a series of like pandemic meals later on when I have the emotional energy to post that on Instagram.
former fashion photographer turned restaurateur, recipe maker. Well,
Yeah.
let's talk about that some more. You and I in the past have talked a lot about anxiety because we've both struggled with it, and we've both dealt with shame from it. And you were a lifeline to me when I first started having panic attacks, and you know, that really made me want to share my story with other people and get rid of that stigma. So let's talk about that a little bit. How have you been? I know you've done a really great job of tackling anxiety overall in the past few years, but have you had anxiety come up during this experience, and how have you dealt with it?
You know, it's like, I know we said this before, like, I feel like we were trained for this.
We were primed, yeah,
Yeah.
for this
So
moment.
I cannot imagine going through this if I had not gone through like my breakdown 3 years ago, because that was the time when my body forced me, you know, from absolute 911 emergency to get some tools
Mm-hmm.
and put them in my back pocket for times like this. I hope people are okay. I don't know, but you know, I have, when we first talked about anxiety, I think we had a
Instagram
Facebook
Live.
Live about it, like the week 1 or week 2.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I got off the phone and I was like, I'm pretty anxious actually. Like I haven't had any panic attacks. I haven't near panic place, you know, but I think I was in this general tense place of like, I don't know, you know how you can't really see it until you're out of it?
Mm-hmm.
That place, you're
Yeah.
just sort of, because you're in a functioning anxiety place, you know, and until you're out of it and you're relaxed, you're like, wow, okay, I was functioning, but I was definitely anxious. I think now I feel great. And it's hard to say, but it's weird that it's hard to say actually, but I feel really good. I feel like with anxiety, I'm doing awesome.
Love it.
And I think it's from being mindful of my triggers and from having tools to manage anxiety. And anytime I see sort of you know, that feeling of like, this is affecting me, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I immediately take care of that. And I just sort of feel like, instead of letting it overwhelm me, I'm sort of constantly managing. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
still seeing my therapist every 2 weeks on Zoom and stuff. But surprisingly, like, even to her, she's in New York and she flew to Texas. And it was so interesting because I was like, should I leave? You know, should I leave New York? And you know, and she was like, I don't know, you know, like, but we haven't really had much talk in the last 10 weeks about the pandemic situation causing the stress. Like,
Mm-hmm.
now what is the stress that I'm under is about authenticity and about this, maybe the shame coming from not
Mm-hmm.
working. And, you know, like, the anxiety is less about
Mm.
dealing with that, because I feel like I've got that under wraps. But what
I'm
about
just
you?
like, I'm so grateful for you being so
Oh,
vulnerable right now, because I know that there are people watching this who are going to be like, oh my God, like, thank you for saying that. So if, let's say, one of your girlfriends called you up today and was like, Tanya, I'm having a panic attack for the first time. I don't know what's going on with the world. Corona, help me. What would you say to them?
like,
What
if
would
they were
you
having
ask?
a panic attack right now. I
Mm-hmm.
did have one of my friends having a panic attack call me. And first things first, I would say, what did you eat today? You know, like, how did
Yep.
it go? Like, what's different today, you know? So usually it's like, you know, I had too much coffee or too much vitamin B, or, you know, that kind of situation. And then it's like, okay, babe, well, you know, this will pass. The feelings pass. And I would say, you know, like, just understand that it's absolutely 100% natural and normal to have your stress response activated under the circumstances. I mean, you have permission, and I give you permission. The universe is giving you permission to feel fucking activated during this time. So there's that. You know, you're not weird. It's not wrong. There's nothing wrong with you. You know, it's absolutely, it would be maybe, you know, stranger if you weren't feeling anything, you know, any stress right now. So that, just know, you know, that you're okay. And secondly, thank God for this. And this is my mantra. I thank God all the time, or the universe, or whatever, for my healing body. And that to me means impermanence. Everything passes, everything comes up and down. And even now, if you're feeling anxious, or you're feeling depression, or you're feeling whatever it is, notice how it passes, whether it's hour to hour, week to week, month to month. And the more you notice that in your life, the more the times come when you feel like, will this ever end? You know, I feel crazy. I can't handle this anymore. All of these hooking thoughts, all these things that sort of send us spiraling. Like, you can know and rest assured that one of the laws of the universe, like gravity, is impermanence. And this will pass. This feeling will pass. Like, maybe you can't help it coming up, but it will go. And usually, like, what I've learned is, like, sometimes I'll have mornings where I'm just like, I can't anymore. Like, my husband was sick during this. He started having palpitations, and we were going to doctors, and the pandemic, and not working, and, you know, all of these things. And I just had this, like, oh my gosh, I cannot handle this anymore. You know, this feeling of like this, and it comes, you know, this hook, it's always going to come, of like, how much longer can I handle all of this chaos? And like, you know, and immediately after, because I've been mindful working on this for 2 years now, thank God, my next thought was like, oh, there it is. There's the like hook of, this will never go away.
Yeah,
And immediately after that, I said, you know, thank God for my healing body. And honestly, like, I didn't spiral. You know, I don't spiral. I mean, the thoughts are always going to come. The you know, the fear of, are you doing enough? Are you okay? Are you weird? Are you crazy?
Are you crazy? Yeah.
Yeah, is this panic attack? Yeah, like, means something that is wrong. Are you schizophrenic? I mean, like,
yeah,
like, we have so much, you know.
yes.
But yeah, if you can just know that it's human, you're not a rock, you're not a robot. It's absolutely human to have emotions. It's absolutely human to, like, you know, have a body that overreacts, and sometimes, you know, especially now.
Yeah, so a really big part of anxiety is understanding exactly what it is. And I notice that with my clients, when I just tell them, your body is in fight or flight syndrome, ask your body what it needs. Because you're not going crazy, you're not dying, your body is just trying to send you a message. And I say, what a nice brain to send me this warning, what a nice body to send me this warning that something needs to change. So check yourself. Did you have too much caffeine? Have you eaten enough? Have you had enough water? Did you get enough sleep? Because you can probably figure it out from there. Like, oh, that's what it is. All I need to do is drink some water, food, rest, stop chugging Starbucks. You and I have both quit caffeine completely. For me, having started taking a magnesium D supplement has been life altering. You know, check with your doctor, people, before you do that. But and be really compassionate with yourself, which is a big one that you taught me. I love your mantra. I have a note on my phone that's like a whole list of anxiety mantras. So, because when you're in it, you can't think right. You have to have something that you can go to that will bring you back to normal.
I learned that too. Like, when I was doing some serious work, I found this book, which we talked about before, called Dare, D-A-R-E, and I highly recommend it for people who are going through anxiety and want to get the tools.
I'll put a link to it.
Yeah, and one of the things they say in there is, like, you kind of have to practice this stuff now, so you could hold it with you when, you know, life happens. And that's exactly what's happened. And the proof is in the pudding. I mean, like, yes, like, I'm not a robot, I'm not a rock, and I still have emotions, but the like proof of somebody who's healing or in recovery or feeling good is that, you know, you feel these things and you don't hook, and it doesn't spiral, and it doesn't, you know, hurt you. You just, because we're never going to stop feeling. I mean, how could you stop feeling afraid, you know, of, you know, the way things are in the world? But
so any other tools? For me, it's like these past few weeks I've been doing, as soon as I wake up in the morning, I do a meditation, and I send out healing to the world, and I do tapping. So I'm tapping on having the best day ever every morning. And that's really important for me. Any other tools for you?
So for me, and I think this is important because I know a lot of people, I did meditation when I was in the peak of like my physical symptoms of anxiety. I did a lot of meditation to quiet, because you know how you feel kind of like all your necklaces, or like your thoughts are like the strings of necklaces that are like this, and you have to like you're like pulling them, they're not even worse, you know. So meditation helped me to sort of wind the necklaces. But now that I feel pretty unwound, I can't, I don't know, the meditation is only for me for those moments. I know it helps you tremendously. I also, through meditation, have learned breathing. And so my first thing that I do is, and you please look this up if you don't know, if you're like, I kind of know about breathing, but I don't know, but like look it up, because it's important that you learn like belly breathing when you're doing a lot of like you don't even know hyperventilation too. You start to feel a lot of chest pain, and then you think you're having heart attacks, whatever. But like the first thing I do when I feel anxiety coming on is a belly breath, filling up the balloon in my stomach, and I let my body go spaghetti, and that immediately, after practicing with meditation for a long time, now my brain is connected there, the synapse is connected. So now when I breathe like that, it immediately goes into like, oh, the alarm can be turned off now, like we're okay. And people, every person you ask, every doctor you ask about anxiety, they'll say breathing. And I mean, for 10 years, I was like, breathing, it makes me feel crazier because I can't breathe, but you have to, it's one of these things you have to practice for a while, so that like your brain sort of, builds the synapses that, the connections, just the same way it's built connections to go sort of into crazy town. You can, build them to go into like peaceful town.
Yeah.
So
I love what you said about breathing into your belly rather than into your chest.
Yeah.
Also, if anybody wants to look up box breathing, that can be really helpful. So that's like a 4-4-4-4. So breathe in for 4, hold your breath for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4, and repeat. But make sure, like Tania said, you're not hyperventilating. Make sure that's like going into your stomach.
So yeah, because the connection between the body and the mind, it's like if you're hyperventilating, you're sending that sort of hormone, the emergency response hormone. And so if you stop doing the chest breathing, it like stops some of it, some of that hormone to go out. So that's like you're trying to like just kind of minimize all of this like alarm, going out. So yeah, the 4, I've heard of that one too. The biggest thing that helps me is when I feel tangled like that, still like a tangle coming on over a specific thought, journaling. So I don't journal like on a daily. I wish I could. I'm not a daily anything person. I'm not a routine person. I'm a Gemini. I'm like all over the place. So now that I know this about myself, it's okay. Like I'm giving myself permission to be this way. And one of the things but I do journal. I just only journal when I need to journal. And it helps me tremendously to talk to, just like Elizabeth Gilbert, to talk to myself from a friend's perspective.
What would you say to a friend if you were talking, like when you're talking to yourself, like would you say that to a friend of yours? You have to be really
right.
nice.
So like, yes, if I'm in my own head, this is why I put it on paper. If I'm in my own head, I might be like, you haven't worked in like 10 weeks. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm sure everyone, look at Amy. Amy's like putting out a project every single day. Like, this is how my mind talks to me because it's trying to help me, So I don't want that voice to be in the driver's seat of my life. And so what I do is I spell it out. And yeah, maybe that'll come out, maybe at first it'll come out, but then as I'm writing, I'll be like, but wait a minute, you've done a ton, you've sent out stuff that you could. You're feeding your husband. You're like taking care of him when he's sick. You're taking care of yourself. You're like cleaning everything. You're being so mindful. You're trying to, la. And then you're like, okay, fine. Okay, so I'm doing some stuff. And then, so that's how I wouldn't tell you like, I don't know, whatever terrible things you tell yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, so never. When you can consciously bring it out from the sort of subconscious or like semi, you know,
Yeah,
conscious
getting it
way
out of your head, whether
on piece of
if it's
paper.
with words or paper, you look at it and you realize how ridiculous you're being towards yourself. And you mentioned Elizabeth Gilbert, and I want to mention this again. This is something we talked about in our first IG Live, is when this first started, Elizabeth Gilbert did a meditation, but it's really more just like a talk that she did for the Insight Timer app. And I'm going to link to that as well. And it was so powerful
Oh my gosh.
about how to deal with fear. And I've listened to it several times over. So I recommend that. And Tanya, you and I could probably do a master class on this subject, but I want to shift a little bit, if you don't mind. When you and I were talking earlier, you mentioned the word capitalism, and I just wanted to ask you to talk a little bit more about what you were expressing there.
Okay, so I think it just came to me that a lot of the pressure that we're under to produce comes from sort of our capitalistic culture that we live in, you know. And in New York, it's very clear. When I lived in Texas, it's still clear everywhere. I mean, it's American, you know, but I mean, we all know we don't talk about it and we don't really like live in this way, but I feel like there's so much pressure to produce and to work and to produce and to work. And actually, I heard this really great, I'm a terrible storyteller, but I heard this really great anecdote once that maybe will help. So this like billionaire is on vacation in like some island town, and he tells you know the villager who has like a fishing boat, like, oh my god, they take him on like a fishing trip, and he's like, this is amazing, I love it so much, you know, if you got, you know, if you spent some of this and you saved a little bit every day instead of like having beers at night, you know, with your buddies, you could maybe get a second boat, and from that second boat you could like save a little bit more and then have a fleet, and then from that fleet, you know, you could like, you know, have all these fish, and then you could have a corporation, and then you could have a mansion in New York, and you could, you know, have all these workers and whatever. And then the fisherman said at the end, and then what? And then the guy said, well, and then afterwards you can afford to like live on a little island like this and have beers every night with your friends, you know. And so it's like, you know, here is this man who already is living the life, you know, for the most part in my, you know, and we have this idea that we have to go and be bigger, 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 bigger. And really like now I haven't worked in 10 weeks and it's been hard, and I've, you know, financially, you know, we've had to have, you know, help, and we've had to have like you know, we are using our resources, you know, that we have like saved and stuff. But as freelancers, we know that this is impermanence also, and things come and go, and you know, work will come again. And it's so important to just sort of like not do the most all the time, and live in your, you know, comfort space. Like, for who are we doing the most? You know, like, is it for us or for who? It just feels so I don't know. Since this time has passed without the work, the fears that, you know, it does get you at first, but now that time has forced me to really think about it, I'm like, we're okay, you know, we're okay, and I'm okay right now, and everything's okay right now, and I don't need to, you know, like I had so many thoughts of things I could do, like paint, you know, 10, you know, huge paintings out of gallery afterwards, that, you know, like start doing this Instagram where like just like so many classes and teaching and this and that and whatever. And it was okay. It's okay to be like, hey, you don't need to be at the pace of anybody else. You don't need to do this to like, you know, constantly be exchanging money. Just pare down, make a simpler life. You know, we're not going to restaurants right now. We're not spending money right now. We're just like, and we're great. We're okay.
I'm definitely of that mind that this is a huge universal lesson that we have been subconsciously begging for a break from everything, and now we got it. And I hope that people will learn whatever it is that they are meant to learn in this time. And maybe it is realizing that this capitalist society is a little bonkers, that we don't need to be working 100 hours a week. We don't need new clothing every month, you
No.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
it'll be
just
interesting.
feels so like we're stuck in this
Mm. Hamster wheel.
hamster wheel. Perfect. Yes.
Yeah, and then all of this like almost forced opening of things so that, I don't know, I just keep thinking of like Karens needing to have their hair done. And
I
maybe these
know.
hairdressers aren't ready. Maybe they don't feel safe yet. Same with
Thank you for
photographers.
bringing that up. I am like so freaked out about my hairdresser friends
Mm-hmm.
who feel the pressure to go back to work,
Mm-hmm.
and
Look
yet
at us.
like, yeah,
We're white and we're long. Our
yeah.
roots.
This is the new cool pandemic
Yes, please let
hot.
this be it. I want to go back to like Georgia O'Keeffe version of Tanya with the braid.
Yes, I need that. Bring it back. But yeah, like it's sort of this, like when my friends in Texas are like, like the part that really bugs me is that I feel like, yes, businesses need to be open again, but just FYI, I feel like they have the pressure to be opened again because the government, this is my whole thing, the government has opened businesses or given the permission to open. And what happens? These businesses now have to operate, or they have to pay for unemployment. They put the responsibility on the
Mm.
business owners, and they have to pay their rent. They have to do all their things. They're not getting assistance from the government. So now it's like, yes, of course they have to open. If not, what's going to happen? And maybe they don't want to, and maybe their employees don't want to. Honestly, like I went to go get tested today, and this is an essential place because, of course, New York is totally shut down still. And just like the nurses in there, I felt so thankful and so sorry that I was coming in to invade their space, and all of these people were coming in to get tested. And I mean, this is something that needs to happen, but like the thought of like a hairdresser, just like, I don't know, that breaks my heart. I just feel like we should have, we should have better systems for times like this.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
Interesting. Well, I love this conversation. I love all of our conversations. You're so
I love you.
amazing. I love the idea that you might be back here for a minute.
Yes, I'm trying. I'm trying.
Usually when I'm interviewing photographers, I ask them to share some of their favorite work, but I didn't really give you time to prepare anything. So I would love to invite everyone to go to your Facebook, and not Facebook, Instagram, and your website, because your work is so gorgeous. And follow Tanya on Instagram, because when she starts sharing her other artwork, it's just like mind blowing. I love it so much. Thank you for talking to me.
Thank you. You're the best, and thank you so much for having this, outlet for people. Like, yeah, thank you for doing it.
Yeah.
Thank you for being highly productive during this time when all the rest of us are just like,
When I fall apart, you're going to be the first person I call. Like,
girl,
Tanya,
I am
it
here for you.
happened.
I hope you don't, but I'm here for you.
I know. I live for it. I really do. I don't know what I'd do without you. I love
Oh, thank
you.
you. I love you so much.
And I love you to everyone who's watching, if you need to hear that.
Yeah.
Also, something I forgot to mention is if you are struggling with anxiety, please feel free to reach out to me or Tanya. We are more
Or
than
me.
happy. Mm-hmm. Don't feel shame about it, because
No shame.
we've
I
been
am
through
I
it.
am here on this planet. This is like a promise I made to, in my healing, to help as best I can.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Me too. Thank you.
Bye.
Stay
Bye.
safe.